Hey guys, BJ on Game Day back again. Joshy here, and for the first time this season, joining us in commentary, Brent Hampton. Welcome back, buddy.
Hello, mate. Good to be here. I'm back, baby. I'm back. I think the view counts are going to start to go up, and now I'm back. He's got this beautiful face on here, mate. You've been doing a superb job holding down the fort all pre-season. I've watched all your videos. I've posted a few comments as well, but been doing a brilliant job, mate. But I'm glad to be joining you once again for 2019.
Mate, very good to have you back. Second year of BJ and Game Day, so this year no doubt will be bigger and better. We're joined by the Angry Bogan, so we've brought a producer on board. He will be anonymous this season, but his effect will be absolutely huge on these videos. Welcome to him, and welcome to everyone else who's joined the BJ and Game Day League. We've got 20 runners this season. Unfortunately, we've had a couple of guys miss out that have reached out to me. You will have the chance to join next season. There's only so many leagues we can run each year. This year we'll have 20 guys vying for the top spot. And Hampton, we're going to have the top 10 join us for draft next year.
Absolutely, mate. I'm thinking we've had a couple of requests for a draft league, but what we'll do this season, the top 10 total points from the 20-man league will qualify for our exclusive draft, if you will. So that'll be a cool addition next season, and looking forward to everyone trying to vie for a spot in that. I was also thinking maybe next season, instead of, just having the one league, we might also be able to start up a BJ on Game Day group. So we'll see how we go with that. But I think the group, you can have unlimited members, which might also be an option for people to compete with us too, mate.
Yeah, that'd be a good idea, mate. Definitely. We'll explore that option because, look, week in, week out, we do get more followers, and we appreciate everyone at home, obviously, subscribing on YouTube, and it just gives us a good indication of, obviously, who's following us. And I mean, guys, we put a lot of effort into, obviously, these videos and the research that we do. And, look, at the end of the day, we all love rugby league, and Supercoach has just made another way for guys to get more involved. So really, really happy with, obviously, how this has turned out with BJ on Game Day, and hopefully we can get bigger and better. Mate, 2019, how easy has it been to form your team, mate?
Yeah, look, mate, it started a little while ago now when they open it up around sort of Australia Day, so they give you a couple of months to ponder basically and do yourself an absolute disservice by thinking about it too much, but gives you a bit of time to think about that nucleus of guns you want to have, and then your best guess at the rookies that might get a start without any good evidence. So you sort of hang around, wait till TLT, Teamless Tuesday, until you can really confirm who those cheapies are going to be. This year, thankfully, there seems to be a bit of a goldmine of them. There was a bit of a concern that there wasn't going to be too many. That being said, whilst there's a lot of them, there's a bit of concern that maybe there's going to be a few traps in there. So we'll see what happens. But face value week one, there's definitely a few rookies in there, so that helps us a bit.
Yeah, I've heard a few lads say that they haven't been impressed with how many cheapies there are. I think there's probably too many to choose from. There's a little bit of doubt there on who you actually go. So it'd be interesting to see who actually does perform this season and where the price rises come from.
Yeah, and I think it's just going to be that security, So we'll see.
Mate, kick us off with your team, mate. Who you got in the hookers?
Yep, so I've started out the season most notably with no DC, Damien Cook, best player in the game last season. I just cannot afford him. I can't justify it. I know it might sound crazy, but if he doesn't start the season banging out the big scores, they're playing the Chooks first up, I'm willing to just wait and see for a couple of weeks at least. So as a result, starting hookers will be Josh Hodgson and Andrew McCulloch.
Okay. Fairly solid, mate. Obviously, Joshy Hodgson's probably up for a good year. A lot of people thinking the same. Again, we've spoken before about McCulloch. I just think he's probably a little bit injury prone, but you're thinking he's up for a good season, mate? He should get 80 minutes at the Broncos?
Yeah, look, I'm not entirely sure on the minutes. You got Katoni Staggs there. It looks like he'll be filling the utility spot. I'm not sure what his role will be, whether there is the intention of him to come on and play some dummy half. That being said, McCulloch's more than capable to slide into a spot in that back row there at Brisbane, whether it's a lock style play. Like, he's basically in the same spot in the defensive line anyway. I guess the concern is, he's coming back from injury, but based on previous seasons and knowing what he's capable of, especially, he'll make around that 50 tackles a game mark anyway. And if he can do that, and throwing the odd attacking stat every now and then, I'm pretty comfortable with starting the year with him at 500k.
Mate, fair call, fair call. Mate, chuck us through your front row. Obviously, 4 players there, mate. Who you got?
Yep, so just gone the 2 premiums up front to start it. I've got Andrew Fafita. He is a big price, but I think it's the best I've seen him leading into a season. I do get a bit concerned with the big boys. They tend to start a little bit slow. But the form he showed in the All-Stars and also in the trial against Newcastle, my boys, was pretty good, and I'm pretty comfortable to start with him. I just can't not have him. The other prop I've gone Sam Burgess. There are a few options, but I'm not sold on any of them. I looked at Marty Tapau for a while, but I just can't justify having 2 big men that sort of play around the 60-minute mark over 600k. So I've gone with Burgess. There's the prospect of him playing on the edge. He's got that duality second row as well, so you can move him around, which is really useful. So I have gone with Sammy Burgess, and that are my 2 premium front rowers.
Okay, mate, talk to me about Sam Burgess. Obviously, Wayne Bennett, he's gone to South now with that switch with Anthony Seibold. Burgess, look, he's probably one player I think will benefit from Wayne Bennett coming. Thoughts there, mate? Obviously, if he gets that edge row, do you think he plays 80 minutes?
Look, I think he's one of those guys that seems to have a good relationship with Bennett. Obviously, Bennett coaching England, and they had a bit of success as well. So they've obviously got something going on there, which is probably a good thing. Yeah, there are the rumours he'll be playing out on the edge. Look, I can't see him getting any less than 60 minutes. And even if he's playing 60 minutes out on the edge, I just like the idea of that. If he's playing anything more than that, 65, 70, and if he was playing 80, I think within a matter of a month, everyone's going to have to get him in if he's playing 80 because he's just going to be pumping out the points. But we'll have to wait and see. He is the kind of bloke that is capable of taking someone's head off in round 1 and missing the next 6 weeks as well. So you take that with Sammy Burgess as you do the good stuff.
Mate, who you got on the bench for the front rows?
So, yeah, I've gone a couple cheapy options. I've gone with Host from the Dragons. So he's been named to start in the back row. 196k, does have the duality of second row, front row, which is nice as well if you need it. I'm not going to be relying on him in my 17, obviously, but hoping he can secure that spot that DeBellin sort of left there. It looks like at the moment they've shifted around a couple guys, and I'm hoping he can sort of own it and dominate the position. That being said, there is a little bit of competition on the bench there with a couple other young forwards in Kerr and Laurie, so we'll have to wait and see on that. But at the moment, going with Host because he's starting. The other spot, I've gone the young Tigers prop at this stage, Mikhail, M-I-K. I'm not too sure what to expect with him. I'm a bit concerned Eisenhuth is named in the extended bench, and he's probably someone that's going to feature in that side. So I'm not sure how long Mikhail will be. He could be one of those trap-type guys, but, you've got to put someone in there. He's bargain basement, and might take a punt on him.
At the end of the day, at 168k, look, you don't risk too much. I think there's a lot of people looking at these guys, job security and such. It doesn't really matter if they sort of play 1 or 2 weeks. If they get the opportunity later in the season, at the start of the day, you can't really sort of, you can't guarantee everyone's minutes. So I think you'll be pretty safe there, mate.
Yeah, and we've got, less than 24 hours. This is what I'm going with at the moment, but maybe it ends up being a Felger or the one from Brisbane. I don't know, but this is sort of at the moment. And if you do start the season with the wrong one, yeah, they say a trade costs about 100,000, or that's sort of what you should be looking at. But the reality is you've got to get your team right early with some of those cash cows. And if you have to trade a bargain basement guy to another bargain basement guy because he was the right one, then so be it. That's part of the game, in my opinion.
Yeah, mate, run it through your second row. Have you loaded it up here?
Yeah, so the back row, I've gone with Taumalolo, Jake Trebojevic, and Jai Arrow as my starting back rowers. Look, these guys aren't cheap. I'm hoping they basically will all start the season all guns blazing, especially Taumalolo and Gerbo. Premium price guys, but rightly so. I think I can't not have those 2 guys in my team. They are expensive, but there's just something I can't not have them. Basically, is the thinking there. Arrow, I think, is a little bit underpriced. I'm a bit concerned some of those injuries he had last season were reoccurring, but I'm happy. I think he's a little bit underpriced, and he could be a new, dare I say, a Parker S type guy. He's a real old style workhorse back rower, and just like his style.
Mate, Tamalolo, first 6 games they play in Queensland, 5 of them at home and 1 away against the Broncos. Do you think, look, I've got to be honest with you, 2 days ago we had 41 degrees up here for March, the hottest March in about 100 years. Do you reckon he gets the minutes to be effective to, I guess, score that 60 points a game?
Look, to be fair, if you're going to be picking on any forwards in that forward pack, the last one I'd be worrying about for fitness is Tamalolo. You've got guys like McLean, Maguire. There's some bigger boys in that side like Matty Scott that might struggle with the heat more than Lolo. I think he's an absolute beast. I do hear what you're saying, but I think if anyone's going to be underdone, it's probably going to be maybe a couple of those guys before it's Tamalolo, and if anything, that might favour him. I'm not sure. I haven't really taken it into consideration too much, to be honest, but at this point, I'm not too concerned. I just think he's too good, too big, too much of an athlete, basically.
Right. Very cool. Very cool. Who's on the bench, mate?
Bench, I've gone Murray, I think. Heard some really good things in trial form. He's had the wraps on him for the last couple of years. Last year, we saw what he's capable of. He's got the starting spot in the lock position now. With Crichton moving on, it's now moved Burgess out on the edge potentially, and then Murray's potentially going to get the opportunity to lock down this 13 jersey. I think at the price he is, he's almost a must-have. I'm calling it. I think he's the guy this year that's going to step it up. Minutes, I'm wondering what sort of minutes he'll get, but I'm pretty comfortable having him in there. What are your thoughts on Murray?
Mate, look, I really like him. I think what we've seen in the history with Wayne Bennett and those guys who are versatile, who are back rowers, workhorses basically. So, you go back to the days of, I guess David Stagg. What was the bloke who played hooker? Sean Berrigan. Those kinds of guys. When you get them in the back row, they just tackle their bums off, and good in attack. So I reckon he can get 80 minutes. Look, he's no secret. Everyone's sort of going near him. I can't fit him in due to salary cap restraints, but I think he's definitely one to look at for the season.
Yeah, and then the other 2 spots I've gone potentially a bit of Trap City, depending on how you feel about this one, in Burr from the Warriors. So he's got the start at the lock position. Now, Osai Papali's been stood down. Depending on what you believe and read, when he returns, I think Burr may drop out of the squad altogether. He might not even get the bench spot. So a bit concerned about him. I'm sort of still thinking about what's going to happen there. If he only plays a week, he might be stuck with him, but he's obviously doing something right to be getting the starting lock spot, to be honest. And, at this stage, I'm going to have to take a punt on him. The other spot I'm looking at is the Tigers back rower Garner. A little bit more than the cheapy price of around that 160 to 200K. He's 265K. Chris Lawrence has smashed his jaw to pieces, or he's smashed his face, broken his face. Something's going on there. Garner's sort of surged into contention. I am a bit concerned again about Eisenhuth. I think he's quality and he'll demand a spot at some stage in that pack. So I am a bit concerned between McKaylee and him what's going to happen there. But again, this kid must be doing something right if he's got the starting spot. If it turns out he's a dud, I could trade to another cheapy forward that's actually doing good stuff and potentially cash in a little bit, but going to take a little bit of a punt on him.
And mate, moving to your back line, who are the 2 halfbacks you got?
Yep, so I've gone Cleary. Despite everything that's going on at Penrith, I just can't go past him at that price. I like the price. He's going to be kicking goals. Again, I'm a bit concerned about the dynamics with all the drama that's obviously going on at Penrith at the moment. I'm not sure how that's going to go, but I'm starting with Cleary and also Dylan Brown, the cheapy half that's been named to start for Para. Good reports on the kid. Happy to give him a crack, see how he goes.
Mate, I think you're sort of sharing the halfback and the cheapy 5'8" with everyone else. No doubt you've got Adam Kieran in the reserve spot for the 5'8", mate.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think generally I would expect a lot of people are going to have at least one of these guys, if not both, just because of you've got to get some cheapies in there that are starting the season somewhere. I am a little bit more concerned about Kieran's job security. There's the young Tavita Harris that's also nipping at his heels. I heard it was quite close between those two for the starting spot that SJ's left behind. So Kieran...
Have you gone SJ in the number 1 spot, mate?
I've gone Sean Johnson start at 6. I like him. I've always been a big SJ fan. I watched him closely in the trial against our boys Newcastle the other week where they absolutely towed us up, and he's looking pretty good. He looks like he's been playing in that side for a while. He's just, I'm a big fan. Got the goal kicking. Happy with him at 600k to start the season, personally.
Fair enough. Mate, moving into the backs, obviously you've stacked a fair bit of your team. You must be missing some money here in the centres, mate.
Yeah, so this is where I'm potentially about to get paid out a fair bit, so bring it on. Look, I'm starting out. This will set the scene for you. My most expensive centre wing player at this point in time out of those 7 players is going to be Jordan Kahu. As you alluded to, I've spent a fair bit of money already around the place, and something has to give at some point, and this is where it's going to give. Whether that tactic works out for me or not remains to be seen, but that's where I'm going with it this year. So Kahu's my first one. My second one will be Nickel Klokstad, Chance Nickel Klokstad from the Raiders. Been named at fullback, 260k. Chance is in my team. Big raps on this kid. Melbourne, I think he was in the Melbourne system for a while. Melbourne don't take any kids on for no good reason. He went back home, potentially got into a bit of trouble back home, and he's been sent back over to Australia to sort himself out. And he's finding himself in that one spot at Canberra and can potentially give himself a home in that jersey if he starts the season well.
Mate, he ain't going to find himself out of trouble at the Raiders, mate, with what I know those lads go on with.
True, but yeah, just let me live in that oasis. I think exists anyway.
As long as he doesn't end up in the back of the Page Tavern, mate, he'll be all right.
Yeah, well, maybe I might go patrol the area, make sure I don't find him in there, because if I lose him in my side, I'll be in trouble. And then, this is where it even gets better from here. Basically, the next 5 spots in my centre wings, the remaining spots are all bargain basement cheapies that have been named for round 1. So I've gone Nakura from Cronulla has been named in the back row. Obviously, well known that one. I'd expect most people will have him. He's got that duality for the second row centre wing, which is also useful depending on what you've going on with your side. I've gone Sivo, S-I-V-O, the Parramatta winger. He's just a big monster Fijian. I think he's Fijian. Semi 2.0, I'd call him. I think I'm hoping he can hold his spot. There are concerns about the security, but you got to start with someone at this point in time, and this is one I'm banking on. Ravalawa from the Dragons, obviously well known. He'll be another pretty popular one. He'll surge into contention. He's taken Lomax's spot, allegedly, so that was big news. Most people are probably going to have Ravalawa as well. Ruben Garrick from the Eagles has got that wing spot. Again, this is potentially a guy that may lose his spot quickly depending on what happens with Turbo and Elliott in that side. But, they had big raps on him at the Dragons, and he left the Dragons to get an opportunity at the Eagles. So I'm hoping he puts in a couple good performances and maybe sort of says, no, well, I need to be in this side. The last spot I got in there at the moment, which is probably the worst of the lot, is Simonson. Simon, the Raiders winger. It's probably going to be short-lived. Rapana, depending on what you believe, could be with less than 4 weeks away or who knows what. But pretty much just see him taking that spot till Rapana's back. But I had to have someone in there. But that's pretty much...
And I saw Simonson in Matty Johns' Supercoach side, and that was enough for me to leave him out.
I've got some... I think my mail, if I'm not mistaken, don't quote me on this, he's got some sort of sprinting background, so he's very fast from what I've heard. And I just think there's no substitute for pace.
Can he catch a football butt?
But if he only has 3 hit-ups a game, it's probably not going to do me any good, so we'll see what happens there.
Yeah, fair enough. Mate, the fullbacks, the big position.
Yes, mate. So at this point in time, I've gone KP, Kalen Ponga, the freak, the prodigy. Call him what you will. I think he's the biggest, brightest prospect in rugby league at the moment. Maybe a bit biased being a Newcastle fan. I've gone Kalen Ponga, very concerned, obviously, with the move to number 6, especially after the form from the trial. He basically went missing, and I think that's potentially going to happen at times, just for an experience perspective. Look, at this stage, I've got him in there. It'll just kill me to not have him if he goes off. It's a hard start to the season against your boys, but maybe we didn't give away all our secrets in that trial. Maybe we've just lured you into a false sense of security, and the KP show is going to turn on Friday night, mate. Don't you worry about it.
I don't care how many fucking secrets you've got. You've got no chance whatsoever. At $1.90, I think you can get as much as $2 for Cronulla. Get on.
I'm telling you, Brownie, it's not his first rodeo. We're juicy at $1.90. And the other spot I've gone, and this will be funny. I've gone Matt Moylan. What I saw in that trial. What I've gone off is
Cronulla.
Yeah. Give it a rest. What I saw in that trial, the combination of SJ and Moylan is looking pretty lethal. I know it was a one-game thing, but I think those guys look like they've been playing together for years. The amount of space and time Moylan had because of what SJ does inside of him, I think is going to be a really dangerous combination this year. Moylan's on his own is a very dangerous player, but when you're going to have a set of eyes on SJ, and with Moylan having a bit more time and space, if he can just stay injury free, I really like the prospect of Moylan at about 480k this year as a bit of a pod potentially. Maybe not, but we'll see. To finish that off...
Mate, not a bad team. Not a bad team. I reckon you can probably obviously take a lot of confidence in. Bit surprising not seeing Tedesco there.
Look, I'm very concerned with my centre wings, obviously. Very cheap. There's Finn through there. If there's some guys with no security in there, I'm in big trouble. If they don't earn some cash for me pretty quickly, I'm in big trouble. We'll see what happens. That being said, I do have 100k in the bank. And the heckling about Teddy, I could turn KP into Teddy between now and tomorrow. I don't know. I've got 100,000 sitting there. I'll see what I want to do with it. But at this point in time, that's what I'm rolling with for round 1.
Did you see what the Bogan did there? He cleared that team because it was fucking nothing compared to what Joshy
did. He finished as top of 1,000. What did you finish last season? 400 odd?
Something like that, yeah. No, about 700.
I hope you took a few photos, signed it, gave out a few signed copies because it is not going to happen again.
Mate, it is just going to get better, I can tell you.
Even a broken clock is right twice a day. Let me hear what you got.
Mate, let's go with the one and only Damien Cook. We're going to start with him. We're going to set him and we're going to forget him. Give us Joshy Hodgson next to him. And those are the two guys I'm going to start with in hooker. Set and forget.
Don't worry about hooker's positions for the rest of the season except for injuries. Haven't looked at buys. I don't know if Raiders and Souths are playing that week, but it probably doesn't matter.
Round 12, Raiders are playing, and Joshy Hodgson, provided the ACL doesn't go on him again, will be starting. I'll have to worry about the round 16 bye, thank you.
You've got to take a hit somewhere.
Front row, I've gone with Andrew Fafita. Now, look, obviously, Andrew Fafita, and we've said enough about him. He's had a massive season last season. I think he's just up for the same again. So, pretty keen on him. Next to him in the front row, I've gone Aiden Tolman. Now, this is probably just as much about salary cap space as it is anything. I think Tolman could be up for a little bit of a price rise. I can see him sort of getting to that 550 or 600 at one stage. When he does, that's sort of when I'll bump him out and maybe bring in a Marty Tapau or someone like that. But if it turns in that week in, week out, he's producing the right scores, might just sort of look at keeping him.
Look, he does have past history of floating around that premium sort of performance. Like maybe 4 or 5 years ago, he definitely had that big engine. I think he's a good pick and a good little sneaky pod in the front row there. Nice.
Mate, moving to the bench, I've gone with the West Tigers front rower in Alex Twal. Now, look, I'm a massive fan of this guy. I've been following him for the last couple of seasons and just been waiting for the time for him to get that starting spot. He's basically, his average minutes last season was around that 35 to 40 minutes, but his points per minute was huge. around that sort of 1.2, 1.3. So now that he's got the starting spot, if he can get that maybe sort of 55, 60 minutes a game, at least I'm looking at him as a cash cow, if not a keeper. So really, really impressed with this guy.
I'll be honest, I am a little bit interested and find it very interesting. You got a couple of guys there around that 400, 400, 500 mark. Definitely the potential to make a bit of cash off them, but interesting to start into the front row, mate. I didn't expect that.
And the other bench position, I've gone with Junior Totola from the Rabbitohs. Now, Junior Totola, I had him last season. A little bit of a hard one last season. He never really got the minutes. He sort of averaged about 20, 25 minutes off the bench for the Bunnies. What I do like about this guy, he's got the starting spot because of George Burgess being out for 3 weeks. Georgie's obviously out for the 3 weeks. Even when he does come back, Totola obviously will go back to the bench, but he'll still have that sort of residual money making. So provided he can sort of average that 40 or 50 those first 3 weeks that he's on the field, the next 3 or 4 weeks after that, he'll still make some money. So probably if you can get to about that sort of 300, 350K, and then I might offload him after that.
He's a bit of a powerhouse when he gets going, gets those legs pumping, so very potential.
Mate, he does. He's pretty impressive for me. But moving on to the back row now, similar to you, mate, I've gone Turbo, Jake Trebojevic, and I've gone Jai Arrow. Look, for me, I actually had Angus Crichton in there early on in the season, but now that he's been benched, I'm just going to go away from him for now. But he definitely will be one of the first guys I look at getting in. Even off the bench, he can obviously be a big impact. But I just would have liked to have seen him get that starting spot. The fact that they've started with Mitch Orbison, whether that's a Trent Robinson thing, I'm not too sure. But I'm sure by sort of 4 or 5 weeks in, he'll force himself into that starting spot. And the third one I've gone for the starting in the second row is Nathan Brown from the Heels. Obviously, we're both a big fan of this guy, mate. Last season, you had him through all the sort of injuries. But I just think this season he can put those behind him and really start to perform.
Yeah, big fan of Brownie, mate. Great pick. He's a little bit of a cheaper alternative to a few of those premium back rows as well. So solid choice. It did hurt me to not go him, so I'm a bit stinging to see you put him in your team. I will say on Crichton, though, I think it could be a blessing in disguise. I mean, if he comes on and only plays, 40, 50 minutes, who knows, and doesn't actually produce any attacking stats, it could mean he drops a bit of price in the first few weeks, which makes him ripe for the picking if you get him at the right time. So I think the reason he's been benched, he's returning from injury, so he's getting his minutes managed or something. So it will be actually really interesting to see. You're going to have to watch Crichton closely because you might be able to pick him up a little bit cheaper if he doesn't go off early.
I can hear that pen clicking again, but look, I reckon you're 100% right there, mate. If we can get him sort of down below the 600, maybe even the 550, that's the time to get him in. Over to the bench for my second row now. Look, I've gone the cheapie option here with all three players. We've gone with Lachlan Burr, Jacob Host, and Thomas Fledgler. Look, obviously, I'd love to stack the back row with good players everywhere, but there's only so many guys you can get in with the salary cap as it is. So similar hesitations with you, mate, with Lachlan Burr. Not too sure on the job security. Jacob Host has got that back row position sort of sewn up at the Dragons for now, but it won't be too long before your better guys are back in there and he'll be reduced to the bench. So hopefully these guys can just make some money before we get rid of them. Over to the halves. Now, I've gone similar to you with Nathan Cleary in the halfback position and Dylan Brown in the reserve spot. So, again, just hoping, obviously, Dylan Brown, like everyone else, he's going to be about that sort of 40 to 50% ownership. Hopefully he can just make some money and we can upgrade to someone along the way. Look, I've got visions of with Adam Kieran and Dylan Brown, one of them being a Jalen Feeney. They're just going to average 20 throughout the season, but hopefully that doesn't happen. To the 5'8" position. Now, I've gone my pod. This guy, look, he had low ownership earlier in the week. I'm not too sure what it is now, but Connor Watson. This guy in the trials was brilliant for the Knights. And one of the things I love about my Supercoach players that I sort of always look at is their activity and their workload. And this guy just always wants to be involved in the play. He's always on the ball, always chasing around for that line break, that offload, everything like that. So I really think at 537,000, he is a good buy. I think he can up that, especially now that he's got the fullback role. But what I do like is that even if he isn't the fullback, if they decide 3 or 4 weeks in that Ponga at 5'8" isn't working and he goes back to the fullback, Connor Watson can just be as effective in the middle of the park at fullback. So really keen on him.
Mate, I will say, as much as I am very surprised that they switched Ponga to 6, I thought Watson was doing a really good job there last year and that there was no reason to change it. I totally agree with you. I think Watson has been by far our best player in the trials. And dare I say, I liken him to an RTS style of fullback. I've been super surprised, and actually I'm loving seeing him. It's like he's relished the switch, and he looks awesome. I can't fit him in, but I think he's a great pod option. And you probably don't want me to talk him up too much more because you want to keep that secret. But it's out now.
Yeah,
let's
keep it quiet. Let's keep it on the download.
Move it on.
Obviously, Adam Kieran in the reserve spot for the 5'8" from the Warriors. Let's hope he can make us some money. Moving to the centre wings. Now, I've spent a little bit more money than you here, but not by much. I've gone with John Bateman, obviously the Englishman. Has joined the Raiders with the likes of Josh Hodgson and Elliot Whitehead, as well as Ryan Sutton, who's come over as well. Look, really liking what Ricky Stewart's doing here. These guys are all internationals. Performed sensationally in Super League. Performed well for the English national side. I think they can come over and really embrace the NRL speed and that next level of play. So at 400K, now that he's been announced as the starting lock for the Raiders, pretty keen to get this guy in there. Beyond that, I've gone with a little bit of a sneaky one here in Brett Morris. Now, I thought his ownership would be a little bit lower, but since he scored those 3 tries in the World Club Challenge, the ownership's at around sort of 13-14%. So I'm pretty keen on him. Obviously, he doesn't have the base stats that Blake Ferguson does and what he showed last season. But what we do know we get out of Brett Morris is that he finishes everything. So I can just see him, catching that final pass and just falling over the line so many times this season in the premiership winning side. So the Roosters haven't lost too much. They've obviously gained in Angus Crichton in the back row. Cooper Cronk's still there, and as much as he's getting older, he's still a fantastic halfback. Luke Keary's just getting better, and obviously Latrell Mitchell as well. So pretty keen to get Brett Morris in the centre wings. Hopefully that 375 can change in price and maybe see him hit 500, 550 and switch to a keeper.
Look, I'm liking those 2 options at that mid price. There's some really good options that have the potential for sure.
Mate, the other one I've gone is the Dragons winger. Now, not the cheapie, but Jordan Pereira. Look, this guy only played 7 games last season, but what I saw in those 7 games was enough to really, really impress me. At 351K, he's a little bit awkwardly priced. I would have liked to have sort of seen him under that 300K to go in, but I'm going to take a little bit of a risk here, and hopefully he can step up his running game. I think there's plenty of tries in this guy. I think the Dragons with Widdop at fullback, Corey Norman coming in, and obviously Ben Hunt there. There's some good combinations. Matt Duffy's still on the bench. I think this guy can be the recipient of a lot of good play and just finish off those sort of backline movements. But at the same stage, I think he's got the up and go to really start off the attacking sets, and those hit ups from fullback and wings can get him some good base stats. Britton Nakora rounds out my centre wings. The fact that this guy's got the starting position in the second row for the Sharks is just going to mean he's going to score 40 or 50 points. Look, whether he plays sort of 40 minutes or 50 minutes, however long it may be, I just think you've got to have this guy now that he's got a starting position. If he was on the bench, it might be a little bit of a different story, but the fact that he's got the start, got to get him in there. On the bench there, we've got Jarvid Bowen from the Cowboys, Ruben Garrick from the Sea Eagles, and Mace what's his name? Sevo. Make a Sevo. Look, Jarvid Bowen, not 100% sold on this guy. I talked about it in one of the earlier videos that there's so many guys vying for spots in the back line for the Cowboys, and none of them are established stars. So if they don't hit form straight away, they're quickly going to find themselves out of first grade. So this guy needs to get 2 or 3 weeks on the park. The fact that he's got Bowen in his last name gives him a little bit more, as obviously being related to Matty Bowen, so hopefully he can get a bit of a start. Ruben Garrick, how long he's in there for at Manly, and the same with Sevo at the Eels, one will tell. Moving to the fullback position, look, I had to go Teddy. Massive fan of this guy. Trended well at the end of last season. Think he's going to back it up this season. He will also be my set and forget captain. Last season, I averaged 54, I think it was, with my captains, or 57. If I had have gone with Cook for the whole season, like a few people did, or a few people talked about doing, it would have made a massive difference to my season. So I'm actually going to do that this season with Teddy. At least for the first round, I might change my mind after that. And then the final position on the bench, I needed to be a cheapie because I've got no money left. Going to go with Corey Allen from the Bunnies. GI is coming back for the first round. There was a little bit of a time there where we thought he might not be, but Corey Allen will be my backup fullback. Was hoping he actually wouldn't get the reserve spot. I was hoping for a non-playing reserve just so I could loop if I needed to. But at the moment, I've got 23 starters and 2 reserves. Might have to trade him out for an Albert Hopewadi or something like that, just so that if I do need to loop, the option will be there. But look, that's the winning team out of 130,000 people. That's what the winning team looks like. If anyone wants to copy that one, you're more than welcome to. I just won't share my changes during the season.
No, look, mate, I think you've got some really interesting sort of those mid-price guys in your wing centres. I think they're good picks. I like Carrera. Bateman's going to be interesting, and I think I agree with you on BMOS. Really interesting about you're going to set and forget Teddy as captain potentially, or at least for round 1. I like the tactic. I'll be really interested to see how that goes for you. I guess for me, what I quickly wanted to mention as well, there was a few guys that I wanted that I didn't fit in. So I'm going to chuck out a few names that would have, could have, should have, but didn't.
I was going to say, mate, you're already going with the if-onlys. If only I had to put this bloke in. You're already making excuses. That's not a winning attitude, mate.
No, I'm setting the scene early. Everyone likes a good excuse. So, look, Fitz, I like Fitzgibbon. I just couldn't get him in with the back row that I wanted, but I think he's going to be dangerous this season. I think he'll form a good combo with Ponga. RTS, I think RTS could be slightly underpriced at 530-odd K around that Watson price. I think he could be a really good alternative option.
I'm going to disagree with that one. And the only reason I say that is because the Dally M medal last year. A lot of people are talking about maybe his downfall after SJ leaving. I don't think it's SJ that's going to leave that's going to affect him. I really think winning the Dally M last year was his pinnacle. I can't imagine the Warriors winning a premiership side now, winning a premiership now that they've gotten rid of SJ. So I really think that him winning the Dally M last year might just seem sort of slow down a bit.
Yeah, I mean, it's a fair fair observation to make. I mean, who knows? Hopefully we don't see him go to Union now because he wants to be an All Black or something. Because, realistically, he's done all he can do if he doesn't win a comp. So, but, yeah, that's an interesting one. I did think he was an alternative, though, so we'll see what happens. The other big one, obviously, is Turbo. No Turbo round 1. Big price, but big pod too. If you end up going with him and people don't have him come round 2 and he's back, he could be a real dagger in the side of a lot of sides.
Well, people aren't going to be able to afford to get him in, are they?
No. So the thinking is you already have him in your side for round 1, expecting him to be back within round 2, round 3 at worst, and hope that tactic pays off because you're not going to want to do too much reshuffling unless you go Teddy to him or something like that. So I find that really interesting spanner in the works. And then the only other one, I guess the other concern with Turbo is the hammies as well. But, yeah, we'll see what happens. And the only other one, King Guffo. He's got the nod at 1. He's an awkward short of price, around 440, I think it is. But another guy I would love to have in there, but I've got no money in my centre wing, so it's just not happening.
Yeah.
But big fan of Guffo.
Yeah, look, mate, I'm the same. I spruiked him in the earlier team previews. I could downgrade a Bateman or a Brett Morris or whatever to get him in, but at the moment I'm going to risk him and just see how the Eels go. Look, if the chance is there to get him in the next sort of 3 or 4 weeks, if he does show that form, 100% I'll get him straight in there, because what I love about this guy is his effort. Again, I talk about it. The players that I love in Supercoach are those guys who just put in 100% effort, and that's what Clint Gutherson does. You see it week in, week out on his face as he plays. Same thing with JT used to be. They're just so passionate about the game. They want to win. So he's one to look out for.
Yeah, he's not the biggest, not the strongest, not the fastest, but he got the heart. Gutho 2017 was the Gutho we want this year. So anyway.
Mate, that's 100% right. But guys, look, that's it from us at BJ and Game Day. Our team reveals, obviously, for 2019. We'd love to hear your thoughts, obviously, on what our teams are. If you're happy to give us a good shellacking on who we should have put in or who we shouldn't have put in, whatever it may be. But we'd love to hear what your teams are at home. Kick off tomorrow night. Can't wait for it to start. I've been looking forward to the season start for so long. So, Hampton, any last calls, mate?
Nah, just another big shout out to the Angry Bogan. We'll throw his link to his page in the description or something. Go give him a follow as well. He's given us a big hand and made us look a little bit semi-professional, I reckon.
Cheers, guys. We'll see you soon.
See you.